John Kerry was in Saudi Arabia this week to reassure Iran's nervous neighbors that this is a good deal for them too.
Obviously, the outcome of these negotiations will be of major consequence to the United States, yes, but really to the entire world.
He has to convince everyone, especially skeptics in the U.S., that the new limits on Iran would give the world a year's warning if it ever did decide to make a bomb.
So that year's warning, let's talk about that. Our first guest sits on the House Committee on Foreign Affairs and the Subcommittee on Terrorism, Nonproliferation, and Trade from Wisconsin's 8th District. Pleasure to welcome in Congressman Reid Ribble to MidPoint. Congressman, thanks for being with us.
Hey, John. It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Well, we're glad to be here with you today, filling in for Ed. He's feeling a little bit under the weather. I want to get to Iran real quickly, but I wanted to ask you, because it was just announced by President Obama today in an executive order that he's now declaring Venezuela a national security threat. I wanted to get your reaction.
Well, I'm actually glad he did it. I think that Venezuela clearly, if you just listen to the rhetoric and the way that they've been talking about and reacting to American foreign policy, clearly demonstrates that we've got a problem and problematic relationship with Venezuela. And so I think the president made the right move today.
All right, some might say too late, but we'll give him credit, at least where a little bit of credit is due.
Yeah.
This has been going on for a while. Let's talk about Iran a little bit more. We know John Kerry's still trying to work on this deal, and we have this letter from 47 senators here, and I imagine if you were in the Senate, you'd sign on to this letter as well. But when you look at this letter, a lot of folks would say this might be some meddling by the Senate in the president's foreign policy. What do you say to those folks?
Well, it's been clear that the Congress has viewed, the president has viewed the Congress as a hurdle to be avoided here. And he's kept us pretty much in the dark on what the negotiations were. And so what Senator Cotton was doing and his 47 colleagues over there in the Senate is they just wanted to alert the Ayatollah as to exactly what constitutional law is in the United States. So as they go through the process, they know what to expect. And
shouldn't this letter be directed towards the president, though?
You don't think the president's seen it? I mean,
I'm sure he has, but this is kind of going around him directly communicating to the Ayatollah. It would seem to some as maybe a little bit extreme, even though it's been done in the past.
Yeah, there are going to be the naysayers that will say, listen, the Congress needs to stay out of this and let the negotiation happen. But at this point, we don't even know what type of agreement that we're going to end up with. Is it going to be a treaty that requires a ratification by the Senate? Is the president going to do something through this process to create just an executive agreement? And I think it's important for the Iranians to know that President Obama is going to be gone in 22 months, and whether or not the Congress will agree with his executive agreement or not is essential to their policymaking. And so I would have signed this letter had it been circulated through the House. But in this case, I don't think it was the wrong step for the U.S. Senate to take.
Now, we just heard the president speak yesterday to CBS about there is some willingness from the U.S. to walk away if this administration doesn't feel comfortable with the deal. Was there anything that the president said over the weekend that gave you any more comfort about the current situation?
Well, clearly, when he starts talking that he is willing to walk away, that's kind of the first time that he's really been talking along those lines. So clearly he's feeling some pressure right now to get the agreement right. And if he does get the agreement right, he's got no problems with the Congress. If he doesn't, then he is going to have a problem. And the fact that Secretary Kerry is in the Middle East today trying to assure some of our partners in the Middle East that this is not going to be a bad deal tells you that this has got broad-based concern that the President of the United States might negotiate a deal that's not in the best interest even of the region, much less to our own national security interest.
Again, here's that letter. I'm holding it in my hands here, and it's interesting to read here. But, Congressman, how would you expect the Ayatollah to respond to something like this?
Well, I don't expect him to respond at all. If he's going to respond, he'll respond to the negotiators that are working with it and say, make sure that you're clear on what we're doing here. But I don't expect any public comment coming out of the Iranian government in relationship to this letter at all.
Now, of course, there are 47 signees to this letter here. There's also that bill that's still being worked on in the Senate, sponsored by a bipartisan group of senators, including Bob Menendez, who we'll talk about a little bit later on the show here. But there does not seem to be 67 U.S. senators willing to sign on to an override of the presidential veto, which he has threatened to do of any legislative action that comes out of this Congress dealing with Iran. Do you think that pressure, though, might be mounting? We might see very soon here 67 U.S. senators willing to push back against the president on Iran.
I think it's possible, but it's going to be dependent upon what the agreement actually is. And, I mean, this has also been the president's take on this, and he's trying to tell the Congress, you guys need to just settle down. We're not going to cut a bad deal. And I think the president's aware that in his own party, he's got opposition to this negotiation and a lot of concern with the effect that this negotiation will have.
Right,
not
Congressman, we'll have to leave it right there real quick. We got a commercial break coming up. We're going to talk to Congressman Ribble and take a hard look at gerrymandering when we come back.